ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ॐ। ॐ सहना भवतु, सहनौ भुनक्तु, सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै, तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। ओम नमस्ते अस्तु भगवन् विश्वेश्वराय महादेवाय त्र्यंबकाय त्रिपुरान्तकाय त्रिकालाग्निकालाय कालाग्निरुद्राय नीलकण्ठाय मृत्युञ्जयाय सर्वेश्वराय सदाशिवाय श्रीमन्महादेवाय नमः। नमः पार्वतीपतये। हर हर महादेव। Good evening. So today is Pradosham. So we did a small chanting for Lord Shiva. I was having this topic in mind for some time to discuss, and I got the trigger in an event that I had to attend last week. So I thought I will bring that topic today. It is about the role of and the importance of and the essential nature of divine grace in our spiritual progress. What better time to discuss this than during a Pradosham? So this is a moment of grace where this topic could be discussed in a auspicious divine moment called Pradosham. You can read it up, look it up online about Pradosham. There will be a lot of material, especially if you look at shaivam.org. You'll have a lot of good information there. So, in the beginning of the class, I chanted Sadashiva Samarambham. Right? Also, there is another Guru Stotram, Guru Parampara Stotram. Narayanam Padmabhuvam Vasishtam Shaktim Chetatputra Parasaram Chaya, like that it goes. Huh? So, not only in Vedanta, if you take yoga, Sankhya, any other darshana, even art forms and skills, if you take a simple skill like carpentry or architecture, metallurgy, all these are ruled by a divine person called the Ati Devata, we say. The divinity that governs this is called Vishwakarma. If you take any domain of knowledge in the Bharatiya culture, Bharatiya Vaidika Sampradaya, in this land, any domain of knowledge is connected to some kind of a divine origin. This shows that it is not only a knowledge arrived at through perception, logic, and human effort alone. It is showing us a certain way of, I would not even say acquiring knowledge. I will say it shows us a way for us to open our mind to the knowledge that already exists. This is very important. Every domain of life has its corresponding knowledge, and that knowledge is already existing in this universe. We are only uncovering that. Sri Ramanujam, the famous mathematician Srinivasa Ramanujam, he used to say, a mathematical equation has no meaning for me unless it expresses a thought of God. So Srinivasa Ramanujan. So all the great minds of the world, even in secular, in science and all that, they also have recognized a conscious, intelligent ground on which this universe exists. Of course, it cannot be objectively proven, but it is a kind of an intuitive feeling for all the great minds. And our tradition, the Sanatana Dharma, Bharatiya Sanatana Samskriti, we have specialized in this and we have preserved it in its original form with a lot of struggle, with a lot of sacrifice of thousands of people. We still have it. Now, this knowledge that already exists, I said, right? So, this we call as, let us call it as the mind of God, Ishvara. So, when talks about this supreme being, the source of all creation, all experience that we see, the source of all life, the mother of all things, the description or the way of presenting it is Sarvagyaha Sarvavid. Sarvagyaha means the one who is the witnessing presence or the knowledge behind everything, the one who knows everything. In general, Sarvavid means the one who is also knowledgeable in detail. For example, all the elements are made of energy. Okay, all matter is made of energy. This is a statement. Different forms of matter, how are they constructed in different ways using energy? That is the detail. If I want to make it simpler, all pots are clay. To know that all pots are clay, but how to make different kinds of pot, that is the knowledge in detail. Yeah. So the witnessing awareness in whose presence this universe functions, Sarvagyaha, Sarvavid, the intelligence that is inside and outside everything and that conducts all the processes. That is the repository of all the knowledge. That is Sarvavid. So, the ground of infinite knowledge is the source from which all this finite universe experience, this so called creation, our lives, everything has come out. And if you see how we learn as a child, how we learn as a child, you look at it. When we learn to walk, for example, we learn without going to school, we learn the concept of reflection. You put a child in front of the mirror, it doesn't take much time for the child to understand this is my reflection, this is me. Yeah. And even in animals, we have this intelligence. Somehow, the animals, the weaver bird, nobody taught the weaver bird how to weave the nest. There is a beautiful anecdote from Sri Kanchi Shankaracharya's life. So he goes to Varanasi, in Kashi, So they kind of teased him. You keep telling Jagat Guru, Jagat Guru, they refer to you as Jagat Guru. What do you mean by Jagat Guru? And he says, it means the entire Jagat is my Guru. They asked how, and he says, he showed a certain bird in the corner of that hall. You see that bird? Yes. What is that? It's a bird. Now it is able to weave its nest without anybody teaching it. It has a specific skill. I am not able to do that by myself. No, it has a certain knowledge. Intrinsically, it is able to tune and awaken that knowledge and act on it. I don't have that ability. Somebody has to come and tell me I have to read 100 books and all that. So that bird is my guru. I bow down to that special ability in that bird. Like that, in the entire world, everything has this divine spark that guides the thoughts and actions of all the beings and opens the mind to various domains of knowledge according to the samskara or according to the need and the programming and the aptitude of every being. Now, right? So this intelligent presence, this absolute intelligence, the ground of all functional intelligence as we know, the ground from which, the self-conscious ground from which all functional intelligence arises, right? That is Ishvara. And that ground is not limited by the individual constraints. Whether I understand or not, the knowledge exists. And the knowledge expresses itself through the minds that are tuned and open to it. So, whatever knowledge we think we have is not our knowledge. Any knowledge we have is that Supreme Being has allowed, the grace has allowed us to open, or it has facilitated the conditions in which our mind and our intellect opens to that knowledge, is able to channel that knowledge in our daily life. So we are only uncovering the knowledge. We are never knowing anything by ourselves as an individual. The idea of individuality itself is only functional. We are actually not individual. We have discussed this in so many classes. So let me not go there now. But what I'm trying to tell here is that all knowledge is of divine origin. Every knowledge is divine. Even the so-called criminal intelligence is also divine. The knowledge for the good, the knowledge for the so-called bad is also divine. Right? You may say, how come violence and deceit is divine? Violence and deceit is a possibility, and it's a knowledge which may have its own use in the right context. So every knowledge is divine when it is operated and functioning in the right context. In the right context means the awakening of that knowledge and the functionality of that knowledge, the awakening of the functionality of that kind of knowledge happens in complete harmony with the universal will, in tune with Ishvara, not driven by individual likes and dislikes. So if it is part of the wheel of dharma, then it has its own place and its own relevance. So it is a certain understanding that nothing is unholy. Unholy is only the disconnection from the divine. Getting the consciousness covered up by individuality, by likes and dislikes, by doership and enjoyership. That is ego. That is what we could call as unholy, if at all. And even then, the individual's desire, if it is not against dharma, if it can be accommodated within the universal harmony possibilities, like, pursuit of wealth, pursuit of pleasure, these are all individual goals, what we call as purushartha, we discussed in the last class. If this is not opposed to dharma, then that desire is Ishvara. I am desire. I am the desire. I am the desire in beings that is not opposed to Dharma. Bhagavad Gita. Right. So we see this ground of all functional intelligence is not limited by any functionality, but it expresses itself in every functionality. This supreme intelligence is outside the domain of our mind, while it directs the mind, inspires the mind, it awakens within the mind, but it is not conditioned or limited by the mind. Okay, this divine intelligence. So let us call it as Ishvara, God, divine intelligence. Now we are using the term divine intelligence versus human intelligence. Okay. So what prompted me to open this topic is the event that I attended. There was a lot of discussions, a lot of scholars and everything about poetry, about literature, and all that. But a presence was lacking. So there was one speaker who came in the end. In the beginning, they lighted the lamp, that kuttu velakku, that ceremonial lighting of the lamp. Then somebody sang some Trivashagam, some Tevaram, something. They sang a verse from the back. They forced that verse on the situation, but they didn't know, the organizers did not care to chant anything. So they did something in Namah Shivaya way and all that. They chanted, it was good. And after that, nobody cared to recognize the importance of divine when they are discussing the Tamil literature. They somehow tried to keep it desperately secular, I think, is a part of the Tamil Nadu's toxicity. So finally, one speaker came, and okay, he was just like a vote of thanks, but it was pretty boring. But somehow he began the speech with an invocation of Lord Subramanya, Muruga's grace, Velum Mailum Thunai, like that. So when he just chanted that line, of invoking the protection of Lord Murugan, when he just chanted that, immediately it's like a flash of light in the place. The whole dullness vanished, like flashes of a presence was awakening. It's a psychic perception. You can debate it. You can say it is my illusion and all that. But I was not paying attention. I could feel it, and that triggered this discussion because I have noticed it in many occasions. No matter how much knowledge we accumulate, no matter how much talent, logical acumen that we accumulate, no matter how many skills we accumulate, if you come into the field of yoga and all that, no matter how well you can do asanas, no matter how many pranayamas you can do, you can acquire a lot of knowledge about nadis, chakras, all kinds of things. You can learn about Chinese yin yang meridians, or you can learn about the various mental structures, combined psychology, psychotherapy, yoga. You can experience a very quiet state of mind, a very harmonious state of mind, resolve your inner conflicts and all that. But still, if there is no tuning to that divine presence, if you have not discovered that way to connect to the divine and awaken the divine presence in the practice, in the everyday sadhana, or if, let us say, if you are not initiated by the right person to help you connect with the divine, if you are not experiencing that connection with the divine in your sadhana and outside, on the mat and off the mat, like they say today, you in at least, if not in all walks of life, at least in your everyday practice, your sadhana, your meditation or yoga practice, your study, or some moments in a day, during the sandhya kalam, during the sunrise, sunset, midday, midnight, certain moments in the day, from time to time. If you don't feel that tuning, that connection with the divine presence that is everywhere, but if your mind has not opened to that in some way, all the other things are basically like what you say, the groping in darkness, we can say. Just pure groping in darkness. You will be going round and round within the realm of struggle, and that knowledge will not liberate you. That knowledge will not awaken you to something that is timeless and eternal. This skill sets and all the knowledge that you have accumulated, it's all in the mental level, at the ego level. It will not connect you to grace. So something has to connect you to grace, and that does not come from mind. Now it is a kind of a, we in classically in Vedanta they just say Ishvara Anugraha, but what we can say, it is something like it has a certain mystic dimension to it. Why it is mystic? It's because it is outside the domain of an individual mind. Though it is experienced in the mind, the opening to it, the awakening of that presence of that force of grace in a person comes from a source that is not conditioned by the mind, comes from a source that is outside one's mind. This is where the sampradaya and the initiation, which is the diksha and all those things, they start playing a role. The guru, everything plays a role in this context. So, for this purpose, the tradition becomes very important, because the tradition itself is a consequence of grace, is a gift given from the source of all things through the rishis and through the acharyas. It has come down unbroken, and there is somehow there is this method which is not exactly a method, but somehow there is this force. If I want to use the word Star Wars word, may the force be with you. That's a very nice sentence. So if I want to use that, maybe can say this force of grace, which has a function of liberating an individual from struggle and bondage. In Tamil, we say Arul, the force of grace. Anugraha, we say in Sanskrit. Right? So this force lives, it's a living presence. It's a living presence. This force is a living presence, and it is more real than all the things, all our sensory knowledge, all our intellectual jugglery and mental formations, imaginations. It is more real than you and I. It's more real than our individuality. It's much more fundamental to life than my little ego and my desires and my individuality, and on my little world, that I think all the things that I think are important, all the scientific knowledge. This one is much more fundamental to everything, and because this is the source, this is the power that comes directly from the source. It is the source that is acting on the point from where the mind begins. I haven't put it like that. The force acts on the space from where the mind begins. So this is the force of grace. And somehow this tradition has mastered how to keep that force, that flame of grace alive. And it lives in the Vedic chantings, it lives in the various traditional rituals that have been handed over, and it lives through the various methods of initiation. It lives through the words of the Veda that talk about that uh, represent the divine intelligence. There are words that connect you to the, like for example, Shiva, Narayana. These are all various, Om. Like that, we have various divine sounds revealed in the Veda, the names of God, you can say. The divine names, the various divine names, chanting them, remembering them, appreciating their meaning, and emotionally connecting to the vibe that is in the name, that energetic presence. When the repetition of the divine names has the ability to awaken that presence in our hearts. Because the conscious source of life that animates this body, that conscious presence that animates this body and awakens in the mind and makes the mind conscious, makes the individual express himself or herself. That force from which the thoughts and the force of life emerge, that source in each one of us, that is the divine. That is not something else. It is not even a part of the divine. That is that supreme being. In Narayana Suktam, there is a Vedic text called Narayana Suktam in Yajurveda. It says, तस्या शिखाया मध्ये परमात्मा व्यवस्थितः स ब्रह्मस्य शिवस्य हरिषेन्द्रस्योक्षरः परमस्वराट्. No? That divine Paramatma, the supreme being, lives in that in that sacred space in the heart. That supreme consciousness, which is unconditioned by the individuality and the mind, that is Brahma, that is Shiva, that is Vishnu, Saharihi, that is Hari, that is Indra, that is all the divine words that refer to the supreme being. This is that. No? It says. So now that is invoked through the divine names that are revealed in the Veda mantra, no? Through the various mantras and all that. Hence, a person who has learned to connect and open to that supreme presence in the heart, if that person can, within quotes, talk, it's not talk. If that person's prana, if that person's vitality can connect to the source of your vitality during the process of initiation, then that connection awakens in you. This is what is mantra diksha, mantra upadesha, the grace of the guru and everything. And then you have to keep that connection alive by your sadhana, by your practice. So that's where it comes. Then the grace takes over, the force of that grace takes over. So I talked about this divine intelligence that is outside the mind, that is at the heart of all beings, and that which is the source of all functional intelligence, that which is the source of this universe, the supreme being. Now the supreme being has 5 functionalities as given to us by the Shastra. They call as Panchakritya. No, Panchakritya. If you see in um, uh, Lalita Sahasranam, it says Panchakritya Parayana. Panchakritya means the 5 divine actions, the 5 divine functionalities. Creation, the job of the force that projects this entire universe. Creation, sustenance, srishti, creation, sthiti, sustenance, keeping it all together. Samhara, absorbing everything back. Tirodhana, Tirodhana means covering up the unitary nature and not making that absolute truth accessible, so that duality, it is possible to live and experience duality. You think you are an individual while you are not the individual. You think all these things exist, the things we see around us, your computer, your phone, the floor, the air, your body, your breathing, your mind, and then your sense of I. You see, so you are experiencing this multiplicity, right? This multiplicity is experienced because the absolute truth is covered in the mind, and because of that covering, it is possible to project multiplicity and experience multiplicity. It's called Tirodhana. That makes life possible. The functional dualistic life is made possible. Tirodhanam. And then the fifth job is Anugraham. Anugraham is the grace that liberates. The rest of them put you in samsara. Anugraham takes you out of samsara. Now, Anugraham can also take you out of samsara. Anugraham is also in ways where it opens you to the knowledge. It opens you to a domain of knowledge, makes something possible. That is Anugraham. So it can be Anugraham, the blessing, what we call as the blessing, the force that blesses, that can help you to manifest things in life, or it can also bless you to disconnect and realize your true nature. The blessing happens in many ways. So that is called Anugraham. So we call that Anugraham is referred to in Shaiva Siddhanta as Sadashiva. Sadashiva Anugrahada Panchakritya Prayana. It comes, Sadashiva. The one Sadashiva Tattvam is called in the Vedic tradition. So this Sadashiva Tattvam is what expresses through the Acharya or the Guru or in the Sampradaya, that connects you to that opens you to that grace, allows you to connect to that grace and awaken this grace and channel this grace into any area of life, and also to help us when we surrender to the grace. It allows that force of grace to create the conditions both outside and inside to liberate you from the cycle of samsara. It acts directly on the prana. Acting directly on the prana, I'll tell it, how it works. For example, you are meditating. You want to meditate, you sit and meditate. Sometimes you feel sleepy. Then you think you're doing something, you're concentrating, you're visualizing, and suddenly you realize you wake up. You realize you have been sleeping and it was like a semi-dream, right? So something puts you to sleep and wakes you up. Every night you go to sleep, in the morning you wake up. You surrender to that force of sleep. So there is something through your karma, vasanas and samskaras that puts you to sleep, takes you into the dream world, constructs the dream world for you, takes you into the dream world, again puts you to sleep, then wakes you up from the dream world to this waking state. It's like going from one room to another room, So you have like 3 rooms to experience, of consciousness. 3 types of rooms. So one room is waking state, another room is dream, and another room is deep sleep. If you really analyze your experience every day, it is something like this. You go from room to room. You don't go from room to room. Something takes you from one room to another room. No, this is that force of life that is controlled by all the unconscious forces of prarabdha karma, which is in the background. So there is a huge unconscious force that controls our individual will and our thought patterns and the movement of the mind at a very, very fundamental level. It's called Mukhya Pranan, or the core prana. That and the source of the mind are same. And it has something to do with Kundalini, and it also has something to do with the Chittanadi and all that. That is a very sophisticated way of presenting it. We don't have to bother about that now. But what I'm trying to tell here is that there is this force of which we are unconscious of, over which we have no control of. Now, this unconscious force that moves our will from this thing to that thing, from waking to sleep and back to waking, this force is under the control of our karma and vasana and samskaras. When you tune to the grace, through the grace of Guru, when the divine grace touches you in the form of Guru through the initiation, and when you are connected to it, this unconscious force that governs your life starts coming under the control of the grace. it starts getting more and more in tune with and more connected to this grace. So the Guru Tattva or the Sadashiva Tattva starts directing your life. It expresses in every little thing. It is not that the divine grace is coming and poking its nose in every affair of your life. No. It takes over that fundamental level. It takes over that process at the most fundamental level from where the mind awakens in the heart. It takes over the process there. So this flame of grace, it starts pulling your, if I want to use a new age term, we don't use this term in Shastra, but for the sake of better emotional appreciation, I'm going to use this term. I usually laugh at this word, but I'm using it in order for us to emotionally appreciate this better. It takes over your soul, and like a magnet, it grabs your soul and keeps it from going astray. This flame or this force of grace is like a magnet. That's what Sri Ramana Maharshi also says, the Guru pulls you from within and all that. So this is Sadashiva Tattva. So without a connection to this force of grace, no matter what jugglery we do in the name of yoga or Vedanta or whatever we do, it's all just jugglery. It doesn't take you anywhere. That is why they say Ishvara Anugrahat Eva Pumsam Advaita Vasana. For a person, the Advaita Vasana comes only by Ishvara's grace. It refers to this. Manushyatvam, Mumukshutvam, Mahapurusha Samshraya. These three things, human birth, the burning desire for liberation, and the protection and guidance of a Mahapurusha, a realized master, a proper Acharya. These three things are facilitated by the divine grace. Daivanugraha hetukam. They are caused only by divine grace. This is durlabham loke. It is very, very rare to get it, and it comes only by grace. So, if in some way, if you connect with the grace, you don't have to wait for initiation to connect to the grace. The grace is all around us. Chanting of a divine name connects you to grace instantly. Simple things like Rama, 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 Rama connects you. Narayana, Narayana connects you. Shiva, 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 Shiva connects you. Any divine word that is directly given from the Veda, it connects you to the force of grace. Just light a lamp and tune yourself to the idea that supreme light, which is self-effulgent. I meditate on that light. May it guide my thoughts and action. Just this idea, I have this idea. This is the meaning of the famous Savitri mantra in Gayatri Chandas, what we popularly called as Gayatri mantra. This is the meaning. Yodeva Savitaha, that self-effulgent divine light. Asmakam dhiyo dharmadi gocharaha, our intellect and our actions, thinking and actions, the way they are, that which guides our thinking and action, that which prompts our thinking and actions. Preraye tasyayat bargaha. I invoke, I pray to that unlit light, its effulgence. Tadvarenyam upasmahe. That divine supreme being, I surrender to, I meditate upon. This is the meaning of the Gayatri mantra. Gayatri mantra, we are not supposed to chant aloud. It is transmitted only through initiation. So I will not do that profanity. It may be available everywhere and everybody chants in all kinds of ways with music and all that. The Gayatri is not to be chanted with music, like how Anuradha Pudwal and Deva Premal and all these people do. It has become a joke. It is a sin actually. Veda mantra should be listened to only in that particular meter as it was revealed. If the meter is done wrongly, it amounts to killing the Devata. It amounts to torturing the Devata of that mantra. So it is a great papa karma or a sin. It is a sin to even listen to it. So if you are listening to that singing of the Gayatri mantra by Anuradha Pudwal, it accounts as papa karma or it is a sinful activity. Yeah. Why it is sinful? Because it disconnects you from the vibration. It creates chaotic vibration. It is not correct. Because the Shastra tells very clearly, Veda mantras should not be tortured according to our whims and fancies. It has a certain sanctity, it has a certain technicality to it, and we need to respect that. The same goes for the Mrityunjaya mantra. And according to the Veda, the tonal variation also changes. The Gayatri mantra of Yajurveda is chanted in one way, in Rigveda is chanted in a slightly different way, Samaveda is a different way. So it is not about just taking up something and making it into your entertainment. So it is about, you may say, no, who is there to control? I will do what I want. It is not. I am not controlling that. It is the rules given by the rishis who have given us this mantra. No, when you buy a mobile phone, it comes with a manual. You say, who are you to tell me what to do in the manual? You throw the manual, you do whatever you want. Then the gadget will not work how it is supposed to work, right? So we read the manual. If you buy a small mobile phone also, we see how to use it. There are certain things, do's and don'ts. The same thing comes, when a mantra comes, it is a tool that helps you to awaken to grace. And the tool called mantra comes with its own, the divine tool comes with own instructions from the source itself, through the parampara, through the rishis. So if the mantra has to work the way it should work, then we have to respect those rules. It is just action and consequence. It is not about somebody controlling us. We don't have to bring ego in this. It's a pure technical thing. The same thing comes about acharam. Same thing comes about various do's and don'ts in our sadhana. All that. So it is all basically understanding of the fundamental rhythms that control the various functions in life. There are these fundamental rhythms in nature. It is about staying in tune with that. Of course, we have to take care not to get overly superstitious, trying to be paranoid about everything. Is that, oh, am I following the shastra? And no need to get paranoid and afraid about it. But it is important to at least make an effort to see what we can follow and to respect that source from where the knowledge comes. Yeah. So with all that, let us use this knowledge that is now freely available everywhere, instead of calling which mantra is better. Gayatri Paramo Mantraha, it is there, means it is called Arthavada. All these statements that we hear in the tradition about, oh, this mantra is the best, this shloka is the best, chanting one Lalita Sahasranama is equal to chanting 100 Vishnu Sahasranama, like this. But they will say Vishnu Sahasranama alone will liberate you. You have all kinds of exaggerated marketing of a divine practice. It is called Arthavada. Arthavada means it is extolling the greatness of it. The purpose is not to be taken literally, but it is meant to inspire us. It is something like, making a child watch Popeye and then tell that, hey, if you eat this spinach soup, you will also become strong like Popeye. Then that kid is very happy and eats the spinach and then shows the biceps. See, have I got biceps like Popeye? Oh, yes, it's a little bit biceps has come up. Come on, come on. You're going to eat spinach regularly and broccoli regularly, and you're going to get this, become very strong, and the child is very happy about it. Yeah. So this Arthavada is like that. So for an ignorant person, to inspire that person to do the sadhana, whoever has revealed the sadhana has given the Palastuti and the Arthavada and talks about the greatness of it, is basically to inspire. So it is not for telling this mantra is greater, that mantra is greater. Whatever mantra helps you to tune to the divine, whatever mantra awakens that presence in your heart, that is the best mantra for you. So one can explore it. One can explore. You can just say Namah Shivaya, or Shiva 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 Shivaya Namaha for a few days. Then something else, some Narayana, then Shri Matre Namaha. So a few days listen to Lalita Sahasranamam. A few days listen to Linga Purana, Shiva Sahasranamam. Some days Vishnu Sahasranamam. See which vibration helps you to tune to that presence in your heart on a consistent manner across various moods. Then you can know that from that gives you an idea about Ishtadevata. That is why Swadhyaya Pratishtayam Ishtadevata Samprayogaha. When you are established in Swadhyaya, you get connected with your Ishtadevata and you get to meet your Guru. Life will take you. The grace starts working in the background and directing you towards the right source, which will connect you to the divine directly. No, it will guide you towards the right initiation. That is Swadhyaya. So let us all make Swadhyaya as a part of our sadhana in order to help us to awaken the grace, open up to the grace. The grace is present everywhere. Like Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi used to say, grace is like the sun. You are holding the umbrella and telling the sun, I am not seeing the sun. You remove the sun and then the sun is there and all its glory for you to experience. So the umbrella of likes and dislikes of ego and our own individual fancies, we have to just surrender it to the flow of knowledge, like this Ganga. You take a dip in Ganga and wash it all off. Like that, you take a dip in this Ganga or this flow, this river of wisdom of Sanatana Dharma and of this the Vedic wisdom. When you take a dip in that through any of the knowledge systems, through the process of Swadhyaya, while we are doing all the other practices, in an attitude of reverence, in an attitude of surrender, and we recognize the role of this grace. I'm sure that each one of you must have experienced this presence of this divine or the grace in some way in your life, that unseen hand, a kind of a blessedness. All this is a sign of grace. Without the grace, you cannot be here and listening to this. The very fact that you are listening to, you are a part of a satsanga, you are in a discussion, adhyatmic discussion, and you are listening to this kind of topic itself means the grace is already working in your life. So let us start giving importance, let us start giving more importance to tuning our mind to the grace, more importance to awakening the force of grace in our heart and making it guide our thoughts and actions in every walk of life, much more than we give importance to techniques and details and personal accomplishments. Tuning to grace is more important than personal gratification, personal accomplishments, and your checklist of skill set, accumulation of skill set and information. All that is great, all that is important, but not at the cost of grace. It is very important to allot some time every day for Swadhyaya, which includes chanting of, if you're initiated and all the chanting of the mantras. If you are not initiated, chanting of the divine names doesn't require initiation, right? I have talked about this many times in our classes. So, and study scriptures like Bhagavad Gita that connects you to that stream of thought from the tradition, that unbroken stream of thought from the Vedic tradition. Shruti, Smriti, Purana, these three things, Smriti, Prasthanam, Bhagavad Gita. Shruti, the Vedas, the Upanishad. You can listen to Rudram chanting. There are so many chants available in online. And if it is after sunset, you play Rudram, listen to it. If it is morning, you listen to other Suktams, Narayana Suktam, Narayana Upanishad chantings are available. Vishnu Sahasranamam is available. Lalita Sahasranamam. Linga Puranokta Shiva Sahasranamam is available. Ganapati Sahasranamam is available. Ganapati Atharva Sirisha Upanishad is available. So many chants are available. All the chants that come in the original scriptures, it should be either in a Veda, chanted by a proper Ganapati or a priest, a proper person who is trained in Vedic chanting in the proper method, that, or shlokas which are part of the Smriti, like Vishnu Sahasranama comes in the Smriti, and Purana, it comes in Mahabharata. So you have this. So Smriti is also written by the rishis, but from their own mind, keeping in mind the teaching of the Veda in a more digestible way for the common person, without losing the connection with the source. Yeah. So it should be either from the Shruti or from the Smriti or from Purana. When you For example, they do this Parayanam, or when things are not very smooth in their life, or when they are disconnected from the roots, or when they are disconnected, there is some disharmony in the family, etc. They do this Parayanam of Sundarakandam. In Ramayana, there is a section called Sundarakandam. Uh, so people, where Lord Sita is thinking of Rama and all that. So, and she comes back to Rama. So this Parayanam, this chanting of the Sundarakandam portion of Valmiki Ramayana, is practiced by many people, done with a lot of faith, and it has its effect of smoothing things, because the sages have embedded the patterns that invoke grace in your life, that grace, that presence, that invokes that presence in your atmosphere, in your heart, in various areas of your life, in your homes. So the sages have embedded that pattern that awakens it. For example, if you want to experience harmony, you just look at the Shri Yantra. Shri Yantra is a geometric pattern. It's a simple geometric pattern, or a Shatkona Yantra. That Star of David, they say. You just look at it, just concentrate on it for a minute. If you have too many scattered thoughts, it will calm down and mind will feel more organized. How? Because that pattern si- represents stability, and concentrating on it will invoke stability, and it is not based on any thought. It is using a certain fundamental possibility in nature, right? So similarly, when you read, when you study these works from great sages like Valmiki and Vyasa and all that, that certain patterns are embedded in it. So you just have to chant that or listen to that. Expound, when you're listening, you are listening to it expounded by a traditional scholar in a proper way. There is a whole paraphernalia that goes with it. For example, there is called Bhagavata Saptaham. You listen to that. It is done in a certain way by pandits, in a certain way, with certain rituals before, after, and all that. It goes with a certain cultural package. Some places the cultural package is given excessive importance. That's all right. So in some places it is completely neglected. So we need not choose both extremes. We can go to a place where there is a decent respect for the cultural packaging. So you have to take it along with the cultural packaging to some extent, because it helps us to tune our unconscious attitude and makes us more receptive to the whole thing. So you listen to that. It has a certain power to open your heart, to tune your heart to that force of grace. Similarly, Devi Bhagavatam is there. In Chandi Homam based on Devi Bhagavatam is there. So when you go and attend these various events and these kind of expositions, connect with them, donate to those for those things, and be part of it. Somehow connect yourself to it, listen to it. What happens in open your heart to those, to that force, to that presence, to the vibration that is present in those things. Then it helps you to it helps you to open yourself to the grace. It helps you to open your heart to awaken that force of grace in your heart. Swadhyaya, this comes under, all this comes under Swadhyaya. So when we make these things as part of our life, as part of sadhana, and not simply do asana, pranayama, and then some, uh, some meditation, shunya meditation, and all that. These are all probably useful in their own ways, but it is not enough. It is important to connect to the source in some kind of a proper way, which facilitates the awakening of the power of grace in our hearts, and connects and makes that flame of grace guide that force of life that directs our mind in waking, dream, and sleep. The grace takes over that process, and it starts guiding our life towards light, from darkness to light. Like they say, asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma mritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So for that, so this becomes very important. This is the most important thing in yoga sadhana and in Nishta. Everything else comes after this. If this alone is there, everything else will follow automatically. You have every other personal effort, but there is no grace, things will not move. the component of struggle will be more and more. So in order for the struggle to reduce and the flow to have a smooth flow towards the divine, the presence of grace is very important. So this is what I wanted to discuss. And we are extremely lucky to be connected to this tradition, because in this tradition, the original, for the lack of better expression available in my mind, I'm saying the original tech, spiritual tech for connecting to the grace is still preserved here, and it is made available freely, and it is available all around us in this country, and luckily now in many parts of the world also. So let us open to that and let the grace take over our lives. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Thank you.